This video, it sets out to tell you the best iPad for a writer. So yeah, you could just fast. No, don't fast forward.
Never eat pears.
Even deadly. No, you scrubbed too far. Wind back a bit. Hello, I'm William Gallagher. This is 58 Keys, and this is also the first of a series of 5 specials on how to pick the best Apple gear for you to write on. So there are editions about the best Mac, of course, the best iPhone, and so on. But to start this off, I want to tell you about which is the best iPad for you as a writer. But of course, there is a thing. Subscribe, by the way. Do subscribe, by the way. There's so much to talk about, particularly in these specials. But also, there's going to be one on how to buy new Apple gear for a little less. So please stick around with that. The thing with iPads, though, is you and I, we use our iPads in different ways. I mean, everybody does. So, of course, it isn't possible to definitively say which is the right one for you. But you are a writer. And I am a writer, and however different writers we might be, however different our writing must be, there are certain things we have to have in common. We just do. One is we need to write. So there are questions on how easy is it to write on an iPad? How easy is it to get an external keyboard, for example, like I have here? Very easy. Okay. In theory, we tend to want to write for long stretches at a time. So what's the best battery life? Actually, it's pretty great on all of them. Okay, in truth, we tend to snatch a few minutes here or there writing whenever we can. So, yeah, what's the battery life? But also, how handy is it to just pick up an iPad? How quickly can we get to work? Instantly, actually, with any iPad. We're writing instantly because those things, they're always on. This comparison isn't going very well, is it? But then there is the thing that we are on a budget. Everyone's on a budget. But with writing, I don't care if you're a full-time writer like I am, or you get half an hour every third Tuesday, you have to be on a budget. That does not mean, though, that you must buy the cheapest thing going. It means you must buy the one that will be the best value for you, and preferably the best value for the longest time. So even though there are other factors, because, there are other things you may need or want to do with your iPad, I can tell you with pretty solid certainty that the regular iPad, the base model iPad, is what you need. And then I can tell you that's not the one I bought. I am recording this in August, September 2021. And I'm fully aware that actually Apple may bring out new iPads between my saying this and my saying this. Whenever you're watching, though, there will probably always be 5 different types of iPad on sale. And they will be at least around the same prices I'm going to tell you that they are now. And while actually each model of iPad's advantages and disadvantages, they kind of shift about, the answer to which is the best one, I'm certain of it now, but it's going to remain that way, I think, for at least a long time. And actually, let me start with the advantages and disadvantages thing. I mean, I don't want to ignore the price, because if you can't afford something, you can't afford it. But what I need to know first whether I care. I mean, I can't afford a Learjet, for instance, and yet, somehow I don't know how, I'm okay with that. So the regular iPad, what Apple just calls iPad, the screen is yay big. It's 10.2 inches diagonally at the moment. It's got a slightly older processor than most of the other iPads, so it's a little slower. The cameras are okay, bordering on good, but they're not great. The screen is currently, by the way, what Apple calls a Retina display, which means with average eyesight, and when you're holding the iPad an average distance away from you, you won't be able to see all the dots, the pixels that make up the screen. Okay. I think you can actually hear kind of hesitation in my voice here, and there shouldn't be. I shouldn't be hesitant, because compare the iPad to all of the other iPads, and I mean actually compare them directly, side by side, and you will think that the regular iPad I'm recommending is a bit slow. You will think that the screen isn't as good, and you will notice that the sound is poorer too, but pick up that iPad by itself and none of that matters. The screen is excellent, the sound is quite remarkable, and the speed is faster than I need. Since we're writers, there is a thing we've got to note about keyboards. You can type on the glass of any iPad, and I have done so for thousands of words, exactly like this.
Never eat pears.
But actual keyboards, external keyboards, are so great for us as writers with iPads, we might as well regard them as mandatory. So you do need to budget for some kind of external keyboard. Pretty much any external Bluetooth keyboard will work with any iPad. In the UK, you can get one of these keyboards from about £15, and in the US, they cost from around $10 or around $12. You can go much higher, and I have, and it can well be worth that. But that's your kind of starting point for trying out external keyboards for the iPad. Apple itself makes only one that works with the regular iPad. It's called the Smart Keyboard, and it costs £159 or $159, and I don't like it. I don't like the feel of the keys. Rather than using one of those, I've previously been using an external Logitech keyboard, several of them actually, for long stretches of writing, or this Microsoft folding keyboard, sometimes for long, but more often for short bursts. These all fall well between the cheaper Bluetooth and the Apple Smart Keyboard price, but they are in that range. If you do buy a more costly iPad than I'm recommending, such as the iPad Air or the iPad Pro, then Apple sells what it calls a Magic Keyboard, and oh, do I like that. I like that very much. That Apple Magic Keyboard is unquestionably, by itself, a strong enough reason to buy a more expensive iPad. It's a painfully expensive keyboard by itself. It's far from a casual purchase. I think nothing from Apple's a casual purchase. Although actually, this iPad I'm recommending, the regular iPad, it's as close as you'll get. It's as close to a bargain as Apple ever does. It's £329 or dollars. And I know I said being on a budget doesn't mean buying the cheapest, but this is the cheapest iPad you can buy new from Apple. That cost, the capability, the screen, the speed, that's what makes me certain that the iPad is undoubtedly in the sweet spot. It is the best one for us as writers, and yet it's not the one I bought. I wasn't going to buy any iPad. Actually, I've been looking into this so that you and I could talk today, but even as I came to be so sure that the regular iPad was the best deal for the pair of us, I still wasn't going to buy one because, well, I already had one. In 2015, I bought a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and all right, it deteriorated a bit in the last couple of years. I'd still be using it today if it weren't for the fact that it just suddenly, irrevocably broke. I hammered that iPad Pro every day for all those years, and so I'm not begrudging the cost or the value I got from it, but it did mean at that moment I sat down to write something and I couldn't. I was in the middle of researching this, suddenly mine was dead. So I looked at all the research for it. I worked through all the things I'm saying to you about the screen and the processor, everything I could find about it, and I knew the regular iPad was best, so I bought the 11-inch iPad Pro instead. It is more than twice the price. Thank you for putting that back in my head. You've got to have a good reason for spending twice the price. And while I now think I was right, I did have huge doubts, especially after I paid the money. Before buying, I could have pointed to you that the screen is bigger on the iPad Pro than on the iPad. It's 11 inches and that instead of 10.2, and that does actually make a difference. It's also got a much better screen with what Apple calls liquid retina and a thing called ProMotion. That means if I'm watching a video, say, in one corner, then the iPad refreshes that bit of the screen really, really fast. It updates it very quickly and doesn't update the rest of the screen much at all. So it's giving me greater response to the thing I'm looking at and concentrating, greater performance, if you like, and it's saving battery power by not doing that for the whole screen. That is good. I like that. I knew that. I'd researched that. I can't actually say that I've noticed it all that much in use. The screen just seems so fast all the time. Whereas I have noticed other things about the screen. The iPad Pro screen is beautiful. I'll be reading a book on it and every now and again just pause to appreciate how gorgeous the text is. Then there's the issue of the cameras being better. Again, I knew that. I'd looked into it. I'd checked. And again, I haven't especially noticed while using the iPad Pro because I don't tend to take photos. I have done, but I don't tend to. One thing made the decision for me, and then one other thing persuaded me I was right afterwards. I'm still recommending the regular iPad for you, but for me, the thing that made the decision is how the iPad Pro now comes with an M1 processor. That's the same processor at the heart of all the new Apple Silicon Macs and MacBooks. It is fast, it's capable. I know I'm going to be keeping this iPad for many years because of that M1 processor. Basically, I know I can run my business on it. I'm a full-time freelance writer, which means I'm self-employed, which means alongside writing, there's all the felgekab about running a business, and fine, necessary, sometimes fun. I need a Mac to run my business. I would like a MacBook Pro to carry around with me, but this iPad Pro, it can take me through every part of my business, from writing to editing. I can pretty much do anything and pretty much do it anywhere. I can pretty much do any of my writing commissions wherever I happen to be. And that was the one practical reason that persuaded me. Longevity and wide capability. It was a reason to get a fast iPad and a great screen. I think I wanted it, but I was persuaded. And then I went to buy my iPad Pro, pick it up from the Apple Store. This was simultaneously not my smartest move, and it was my smartest move. Because while I was there, they showed me this, and I got to actually try it out. The Apple Magic Keyboard for iPad Pro. I'd heard it was good. I'd read about that it was great. I had no idea how superb that keyboard is until I was in the store and then knew I wanted one. The Apple Magic Keyboard doesn't work with the regular iPad that I'm recommending, and so in retrospect, did that back up my decision to go for the Pro? Work with me on this one. Yeah. Remember I said the iPad Pro was more than twice the price of a regular iPad? Brace myself. The Apple Magic Keyboard for the 11-inch iPad Pro that I got costs $299 or £279. The version for the 12.9-inch iPad, it's more at $349 or £329. Magic keyboards feel fantastic, and being able to just, pick up the key, off the key, and pop it back when I'm done. It's just no connections, no writing, get on with writing, look up something. It is fantastic. Genuinely worth the price once you've got past the pain of paying it. Just before we started talking, by the way, I went to check the price of the bigger one that I haven't got, the Magic Keyboard for the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I was looking at this price thinking, wow, and just after a little beat, a sign came up saying, financing available. Yeah, if you walk by my office at that moment, you'd have heard me say, yeah, I'll bet it is. Listen, I know I went for a more expensive iPad than I'm recommending for you. There are many times, actually, when I wish I'd gone even further and bought the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. My old one, the one that broke, was 12.9 inches, and it's like having two iPads side by side. There's something about that. You get immersed in your work. You feel like your hands are inside the iPad, working, kneading away. But there was no possible way I could afford the newest 12.9-inch iPad Pro. No chance I could get it plus the Apple Magic Keyboard for that model. Our needs differ in the details, but you always do what you have to do. We're writers. We're not made of cash. Let me say that this isn't really a case of do as I say, not what I do. It's a case of we need both of us to think about what we will or won't use an iPad for in our work besides writing. And there's enough, especially enough for me, that will stretch the M1 processor more than straight typing does, that it was worth it. And if that's true with you, of course you should consider the iPad Pro. Usually I think that is the comparison. Regular iPad versus the iPad Pro. Right now, though, September 21, and quite possibly for a while, even though we're on the verge of Apple releasing new ones, probably, there is one more iPad to consider in the middle. And I spent so long thinking about this for myself and for my business. It's the iPad Air, an excellent iPad. It always sits between the regular iPad and the 11-inch iPad Pro in terms of price and performance and features. Sometimes, though, it's so close to the 11-inch iPad Pro that they are indistinguishable. And since it does cost quite a bit less, the iPad Air can be irresistible. But then Apple updates the iPad Pro and it makes the gap between the two a little larger, even as the gap between the prices stays about the same. Actually, for completeness, there is also the iPad mini. I said there were 5 models. There's the iPad mini as well. But as cute and handy as those little ones are, they're very expensive. The small iPad mini actually costs more than the regular iPad. And so I think you have to really want that smaller size to pay the extra. Certainly, yeah, the iPad mini, it fits into more bags than others. Certainly, actually, it's very pleasant in the hand. Using an iPad mini and reading books, I've relished it every time I've done it. For writing on, though, I don't think it's what we need. Now, the iPad, the regular iPad, it's that sweet spot among the whole range. I mean, yeah, it's got a poorer, no, it's not a poorer screen. It's got a less fantastic screen. Let's say that. Yeah, it's slower next to an iPad Pro, but it is more than fast enough. The screen is more than good enough. And yet, this iPad is the cheapest, which is why, if you look past those enormous and perhaps even deadly full, all right, okay, that's over dramatic, but if you did scrub forward, I want to kind of tantalize you, but yeah, the best iPad for writers is the regular iPad. Price shouldn't make a difference really, but of course it really does. Nonetheless, I think a non-iPad tablet that you pick up for 50 quid or something is not a great bargain. I think that's £50 wasted for what isn't an iPad and could be a very short-term device. So right now, the cheapest that you can get is the regular iPad is £329 pounds or dollars. One thing though, one very important thing I'm afraid, in every case, every price I've mentioned, every price I'm going to mention, that's the starting price. Buying that is okay. Spending a little more moves you up into good, great, and ouch, that's the price of a car or the magic keyboard. As I say, regular iPad starts at $329. The iPad mini starts at $399 pounds or dollars. Next is the iPad Air, which is $579 or $599. And lastly, there's the iPad Pro, which comes in both an 11-inch and a 12.9-inch size. 11-inch starts at £749 or $799. 12.9 is £1,000 or $1,100. Not a casual purchase. The thing is, you only rarely be wise to begin with the starting price of it. You should almost always pay more. Apple is, across the board, Apple is miserly with the amount of RAM and storage space it gives you. What you need, though, is always more. It just depends on what you're doing and whether you can figure out what you're doing, how that means you need more storage. I mean, you just generally take it for granted. You need more than Apple gives you. Apple iPads come with a range of storage options, and yet you have to choose at the time of buying. You cannot add to them later. The cheaper iPads, such as the one I'm recommending, give you the fewest options for these things. The more expensive ones give you the most. And then the ones in the middle, the iPad Air really, they have certain storage capacities, certain RAM features, and they also tend to have the most number of different colors, which is not to be ignored. In every case, bar one, I think, you could get away with just the amount of storage that's in the base model. If you could possibly afford more, do it, but you could be okay with the lowest. Could be. Unfortunately, the one exception is in the regular iPad, the model that I'm recommending to you. That starts with 32 gigabytes of storage. And I know that doesn't necessarily mean much, but this video you're watching, for example, comes in at around 3 gigabytes all by itself. And I granted, you're not going to be making this video, are you? But if that gives you a sense that 32 gigabytes is paltry, then we've done our job. Expect to have to pay between $100 and $150 or pounds for the next level of storage, whatever that is. For the regular iPad, for example, you start with 32 gigabytes and then you have an option for 128 gigabytes for about £100, $100 more. The specific cost and the specific amount of storage available confusingly varies between the different iPad models, but the price band for increasing them is always between 100 and 150. You choose the storage when you buy the iPad, but at the same point, you also get to make another big and potentially very significant choice. You get to choose between having a cellular or a Wi-Fi only model of iPad. Cellular means your iPad has a kind of mobile phone in it, doesn't it? It's not for making phone calls, but it's for connecting to the internet. exactly as easily and as readily as your iPhone does all the time. Wi-Fi only means you have to be in range of a Wi-Fi network before you can use the internet on that iPad. I mean, nothing stopping you writing on the iPad, watching whatever's already on there, but backing up, downloading stuff, sending to a publisher, emailing anyone, doing online research. No, not unless you're in range of a Wi-Fi network. Yeah, no, hold that thought for a moment. Buying a cellular model means your iPad itself at point of purchase costs about £100 or $100 extra. And then when you have a cellular iPad and you actually use it, you have to pay a monthly cellular fee to, just like the one you pay for your phone, and actually probably to the same company you pay for the phone. I have friends who swear by this, the convenience of wherever you are in the world, just pick up the iPad and use the internet as if it was in there. They love that. I have friends too who have bought the cellular version and just never quite got around to using it all that much. And then there's me. I have never bought a cellular iPad. I have always exclusively bought a Wi-Fi only ones. And that is what I'm recommending for you, not just because of the cost, but because also with the plan I have with my iPhone, with my mobile phone operator, and you probably have with yours, we can use tethering. Wherever I am, I can tether my Wi-Fi only iPad to my iPhone and use my iPhone's 4G or now sometimes 5G internet connection. As far as the iPad is concerned, it is connecting to a Wi-Fi network. It's just that the Wi-Fi network happens to be really my iPhone. Most phone companies allow this, but not all. And probably all that do also come with terms, you know they do. Most important of those will be the limits on how much you can use tethering for without paying extra, how much data you can use. I would actually give my mobile phone operator a plug for how well they do it, except I'm in the UK. And my phone operator promised that Brexit would not make a difference to prices, that we'd still be able to roam across Europe for exactly the same low prices we always did. And that turned out to be a bit of a lie, didn't it? So thank you, Brexit, yet again. Deep breath. That's it for this edition of 58 Keys on how to buy the best iPad for you as a writer. Thank you to the UK's Arts Council for how they've helped me a lot with developing these extended episodes and specials. But thank you for watching. Now, take care of yourself, write more, and I'll see you soon. Okay? No, you scrubbed too far. Wind back a bit.